Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the second session of our SDG seminar series. We're very excited to bring you today the webinar on impact investing from Japan in deep tech startups in ASEAN. My name is Aya Ono, and I'm a project officer from ASEAN-Japan Center, and I'll be the MC of the webinar today. In this webinar, we will showcase the Japanese tech-based impact investing fund, Real Tech Global Fund, actively impact investing in deep tech startups in ASEAN, and you'll find out more about them from the webinar today. And this webinar is broadcasted in both English and Japanese. If you're using a Zoom app on your phone or computer, please click on the icon that says interpretation to switch the language. And for your information, the webinar today will take a more interactive style where we will have an external discussant, Mr. Mason Tan, who will facilitate the discussions. And the presentation materials will be uploaded on our website tomorrow. And for questions, please use the Q&A function on Zoom. Now, I'd like to now introduce you to two speakers of our webinar today. And we have the privilege to hear from Mr. Akitaka Wilhelm Fujii and Mr. Daiki Kumamoto, both from Real Tech Holdings. The first speaker is Akitaka Wilhelm Fujii, who is a president of Real Tech Holdings. After obtaining his MA in International Studies from the University of Tokyo, Akitaka joined EIT Climate KIC, which is the largest public-private innovation partnership in Europe focused on climate innovation. During his tenure, he evaluated startups in new business idea grant applications, and he was also in charge of evaluating the environmental impact of portfolio companies. He then joined Real Tech Holdings in March 2019. And currently as president, Mr. Fujii leads its strategic and organizational development endeavors, as well as championing its impact investing activities. And the second speaker is Daiki Kumamoto. Mr. Kumamoto is a venture capitalist in Real Tech Fund and one of the largest deep tech focused VCs in Japan. Mr. Kumamoto is specialized in supporting startups, especially those that bring solutions to care and welfare. He's also leading the global fund that started in 2020 that invests in deep tech startups in ASEAN. Before joining Real Tech, he was the president of the largest NPO in Japan that commits to supporting younger entrepreneurs globally. He graduated from Keio SFC University with a bachelor's degree in management. Now the floor is yours, Will and Daiki.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank the ASEAN-Japan Center for inviting us today. It's a great privilege to be here with all of you. And for those who are attending the webinar today, I would like to thank you for your time as well. I know that some of you might have listened to Mason's presentation last time. Today, I'm very happy to introduce you to our approach to solving the same issue or achieving the same goals, namely improving people's livelihood while also creating a sustainable world for the future. To begin with, I will be presenting a little bit about what Real Tech Holding does, our approach to impact investing, and then I'll hand over to my colleague, Daiki here, who will be talking a lot more about our approach towards ASEAN investments. So I think, I had a kind of introduction before, so I'll skip this part, but basically, since I was in my actually high school years, I'm very much passionate about trying to make the world a more equitable place. So that means increasing people's livelihood while also trying to create a more sustainable world for the next generation. So a little bit about Real Tech Holdings. It's a company co-founded by two deep tech startups solving societal and environmental issues. The first one is a company called Euglena, which most of the Japanese attendees here might know. It started off as a company trying to solve the malnutrition problems of Bangladesh people. So the founder went there during his student days, found that there are many people having malnutrition problems, and he founded the company to solve that problem. Euglena is the first company in the world who succeeded in outdoor mass cultivation of a microalgae called Euglena, which is for human consumption. So it contains 59 different kind of vitamins and amino acids. So it's very healthy, but it can also be used for cosmetics. And also, obviously, since it's an algae, you can extract oil out of it. So biofuel, using it for running buses, cars, but also for jet fuel is what they attract very much attention these days. So currently the startup or the company is listed on the first stock exchange here in Tokyo. It's the first University of Tokyo born startup that is being listed on the first section of the Tokyo Stock Exchange. It's been basically a huge home run for many investors as well. The other company that I would like to introduce you is Livanest. It's a company managing Japan's largest academia-based knowledge network. So they are a group of experts. So most of the people there have a master's degrees or PhD degrees, deep domain experts to help different deep tech startups, but also companies, large corporates to boost their R&D based business development. They were an early supporter of Euglena. So they supported Euglena's R&D, and that's why we jointly now created this company called Real Tech Holdings to support companies like Euglena who are trying to solve the societal and environmental issues, and basically creating an ecosystem that supports those kind of startups. So the startups we support are R&D based technology startups solving societal and environmental issues. So as you see on the screen here, we have a very broad range of startups that we invest in, ranging from biology, sensing, agriculture, marine, to all the way to new material. We do, however, have things that we don't invest in, which are the things like IT only. So everything that is completed on the web, fintech, gaming. We believe that those startups, they have their own value, but at the same time, many investors are already investing in them. So we try to focus on companies that require deep domain experts and have a transformative impact on people's life. So as a fund, we have 50 plus market leading LPs, so investors into the fund, and an AUM of around 220 million US dollars. The first fund we founded in 2015, it was around an 85 million US dollar fund with 30 leading market leaders here in Japan. So you might recognize many of those logos on the screen here. Since we have deployed all the funds out of that fund this spring, we founded two new funds. One fund is looking into Japan, especially into startups outside of Tokyo, because if you look at the facts, actually 75% or more of VC money flows into startups based out of Tokyo, while there are huge potential outside of Tokyo as well. So we believe that we needed to fill this gap, and this is also our first official impact investing fund that we created. The other fund that my colleague Daiki will be going into depths is the Real Tech Global Fund, which is mainly a fund that invests in ASEAN startups trying to solve societal and environmental issues. So far, we have invested in around 60 by today startups out of those three funds. So talking a little bit about our uniqueness, just highlighting three things here today. One is our sourcing network. So we have access to thousands of new ideas and technologies annually. This is annually. through our extensive university and research network globally. And this is mainly thanks to an acceleration program called Tech Planter that one of our parent company, Livanest, runs. So we have a steady inflow of exciting startups trying to solve those societal challenges. The next unique point that we believe have is we have deep domain experts in deep tech. So as I mentioned, most of our group companies have a master or PhD. So we have domain experts who can assess the startups properly. And the third point that I want to highlight is our hands-on approach. So we do have, we go into startups, get our hands dirty, if you would like, and help the startups to grow. And this is done through our in-house capabilities, but also our global network. So I would like to go in a little bit more into the deep tech focused impact investment venture capital fund that we founded. It's the first of its kind here in Japan. As I have been explaining from the beginning, our intention was always to invest into startups that have societal and environmental issues, trying to solve those challenges. But with this new fund, we also implemented the impact assessment in collaboration with Sumitomo Mitsui Trust Bank that you see here. What we wanted to achieve through this fund and this activity is to make sure that the deep tech startups are truly recognized for their true value. Unfortunately, in today's capital market, you only have mainly basically one measurement, which is the financial measurement, and not many can assess the social or environmental impact of the startups. So we want to make sure that the startups are seen for their true societal and environmental value as well. We also wanted to provide the ESG and impact investors with more attractive impact investment or ESG investment opportunities, because at the moment, most of the impact investment goes actually outside of the startup investment. So we decided to implement the impact assessment for all of our portfolio startups for our Realtech Fund 3, the third Japanese fund. So just to highlight maybe a few of our startups, this startup's QD Laser is actually from our first and second fund, and it's currently listed already on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. It's a Fujitsu Laboratory spin-off, and they have deep expertise in semiconductor laser solutions, and using that core technology, they've developed an eyewear device that projects basically images directly onto your retina, so the backside of your eyeball, allowing low vision people to basically see again. So those people would not be able to see wearing contact lenses or glasses. So by putting on this device, they will be able to see again. The medical grade would also increase your eyesight, actually. So the impact potential of these startups is actually quite huge. Globally, there are 38 million people's life that this solution could impact. And as you see, actually seeing is a very, very big part of people's quality of life. So, people are restricted to the opportunity to learn or to work, but also to have fun, which is an essential human rights that we believe. The second and third startup that I want to briefly touch upon is AgroDesign Studio, which is basically developing a new way to develop pesticides. As for today, pesticides actually are developed and tested in a way where you produce a pesticide or a new pesticide, you try it on different bugs or basically on things that could harm your plants, you would see whether it's effective or not, but you wouldn't be able to actually analyze the mechanism behind it. So what Agri-Design Studio does is it looks at the specific bugs that might harm your plants. It analyzes the DNA and produces a pesticider that directly targets that bug instead of, so that in that way you would know why it's effective and you would know that it's not harmful for people, which is not the case for existing pesticides. The third startup, UMAP, is solving heat problems. So you know that currently, obviously, electric vehicle is a big thing. Obviously, by data mining, fintech development, you would have more and more data centers that would consume a lot of energy. So heating problem is a big thing. They've developed a new material that allows electric devices, so the things like your PC, which is getting hot at the moment, to not generate as much heat as they do. So it actually extends the lifetime of the device as well. So with an Asian ASEAN angle, I would also like to introduce to a startup called Shiok Meats, which is developing cell-based meat and seafood. So cell-based meat is basically developing meat or red meat or seafood in a laboratory. So on the right side, you will see the mechanism. It's very actually close to the greenhouse, how you grow vegetables in a greenhouse, but they do it in a laboratory. The reason why they started this company is because of obviously sustainability reasons. So a lot of seafood today actually consumes, so the fish consume microplastic, which then ends up in people's body, obviously. And this is obviously not good for the human, but also shrimp farming often is unsustainable. It also involves ethical challenges where workforces need to basically work in a harsh environment. So by developing seafood in a laboratory, you can control all those factors. I'm personally in charge of this company, so I know the founders as well. They're big on sustainability themselves, so they walk the talk as well, which we believe is very important when it comes to impact investing and impactful startups. My kind of message to you before I hand the floor over to my colleague Daiki is impact investors. I would call out for those to look into deep tech startups as well. So there are a lot of impact investors who are looking obviously into social businesses. We believe that that's important as well. I know that deep tech startups, they take long before a product goes out to a market and actually produces actual impact. And that causes obviously a strong struggle within an impact investor because they're on one hand side forced to present impact, but at the same time, deep tech startups take long until they have an impact. But actually, without supporting those deep tech startups, there won't be transformative change. At least that's our belief. So we would like to call out for more investments going into these areas. We also think that it's a strong driver for achieving the SDGs. Obviously, there is a huge financing gap there. It's projected around 2.5 trillion US dollars are still lacking for achieving the SDGs. So we think that deep tech investments can contribute into this as well. And last but not least, this startup impact investing is still at its nascent stages. We know that. So we call out for like-minded investors, individuals who are interested in this sector to co-create this new market. Thank you very much. And I'll hand the floor over to Daiki, who will be presenting more about our ASEAN approach. Thank you.
Is it on me? All right. Is the slide on as well? Hopefully. Oh, never mind. Thanks, Will. All right, just on time, a little bit late, but no worries. So hi, everybody. My name is Daiki Kumamoto. I currently work as a venture capitalist in Realtek Holdings. Also, as Will has explained, we do run several funds within the holdings company, but I'm personally in charge of the Global Fund, which is a fund set in Japan, but only investing into ASEAN startups, ASEAN deep tech startups. So today I would like to share a little bit about the activities of the Global Fund and how we wish to engage the Japanese investing network, as well as the Southeast Asia governmental institutes together to boost up the whole deep tech ecosystem in ASEAN. To do a brief introduction about myself, I was born in UK, lived in the States and Hong Kong for quite a while. And I joined Realtek Fund in 2018, same timing as Will, and currently, as spoken, a venture capitalist as well as leading the Global Fund. Some of the teams that I'm in charge of are called ABA, NDR Medical, Ori Laboratories. I mean, no, I can go on through ages to go talk about each of the teams, but I'll keep it very simple, sticking with the Global Fund for today. So to give you a little bit of background about why deep tech is a key focus for us, especially in Southeast Asia. So when you look at the main markets of the startup ecosystem all over the world, for example, Silicon Valley, Boston, Israel, and London, or Europe in general, you can see that there's a lot of IT-based software companies emerging in these areas. Also, a lot of investors have been seeking into opportunities for investments. And you can see that there's a high demand of startups rather than investors as an ecosystem. However, when you look into more Singapore or Southeast Asia in general, the theme of deep tech is heavily emerging. And we see a very, very interesting research themes, entrepreneurs, and resources that are yet to be utilized. That have the potential to solve deep issues in the world, but have not been supported by investors fully. So, looking at the whole population and the GDP growth, obviously this is something very big, and especially in terms of the age group, it is an area where you can see that there's a huge potential in growth that could be seeked for over the next 10, 20 years. At the same time, there's also a lot of issues that Japanese people don't face every day. And starting off from plastic pollution to agricultural waste to all sorts of issues specific in Southeast Asia is something that we wish to solve. And looking into the startup ecosystem side, obviously, you have Gojek, you have Grab, you have Tokopedia. The big players are there. But when it comes specifically to deep tech or R&D based startups, it's very hard to find teams that are valued at a certain amount of price range. And that is simply because there's no investor side being able to support this area. And also there's a lack of knowledge or capability in order to support these type of startups. So this is the biggest gap that we wish to fill in with the knowledge and experience that we've been able to build within the whole Japanese ecosystem. So the Global Fund itself, its concept is not just financial returns in general, but it's to connect the the ASEAN market with the Japanese deep tech ecosystem. This is one aspect to solve issues in Southeast Asia by Japanese technology, meaning having supporting systems within the Japanese ecosystem for startups in Southeast Asia. We've been conducting programs that do manufacturing support of prototyping, supporting startups building their prototype with manufacturing support in Japan. Also conducting R&D collaborations with Japanese research institutes together with Southeast Asian startups. And also, from the other hand, it's also a way to solve the decreasing Japanese market by ASEAN deep tech startups, meaning supporting expansion of existing technology within Japanese corporates out into ASEAN, as well as utilizing dormant technology towards solving specific issues in ASEAN region as well. And as a whole, throughout this connection, this is something I'll explain a little bit more later as well, but we do wish to bring an IPO case, or we do wish to merge the the equity market together of Southeast Asia in Japan together, so that it brings a much more stronger synergy to connect and combine the two ecosystems to build a much more or stronger ecosystem. So the Global Fund was officially closed at April this year. Total about AUM of 31 million, so quite small as a start off. But a lot of the large corporates here, starting off from Ebara Corporations, JR East, the Marui Group, the Maruhan Nichiro Group, and Honda, they were happy to join the fund itself in trying to see what are issues in Southeast Asia and how large corporates in Japan can support the whole deep tech ecosystem of Southeast Asia. So far, we've been investing into 5 teams. Shok meets Will took the explanation. I wanted to share a lot, but never mind. But another team called ASEAN-Nova is a team in Singapore that's developing innovative encapsulation technology. So encapsulating bacteria and cells inside a very strong box in a way. And it has the ability of 10K times more acidic resistance, as well as it avoids the immune system, and it can be stored even in room temperature. So the encapsulation technology itself is applied to different platforms for drug discovery, for the pharmaceutical areas, for pig, cow and pig nurturing, and also for human consumption and healthcare or activities as well. But I've listed down some of the collaborations that ASEAN-Nova, also Shok here, has brought up with Japanese corporates, because I guess one of the main themes today is how Japanese equity market can support startups in Southeast Asia. So with ASEAN-Nova's case, it's beginning several projects together in the bacteria field and the cell field with large corporates. I can't name the names, apologies for that. And it's also been supported and invested by some of our group companies as well. As for Shok, not sure, Will didn't explain it much, but it already has been conducting co-research programs with Integrated Culture, which is one of our investees from the Japan fund as well, to develop, to lower the cost of media creation or cell-based cross-reation creation, as well as it's been invested by Toyo Sekan, which is also a very close friend of ours. And together we've been able to support Shok Meets' activities in terms of manufacturing, as well as supporting their end approach. Also, some of the investees, NDR Medical and Aerodyne, these are teams invested from the Global Fund as well. Just to share a little bit, NDR, it's developing automated needle targeting device for surgeons. It's basically a device that allows surgeons to quickly and accurately understand where to puncture the needle itself. This team is also conducting co-research programs with Nagoya City University, and it's also starting its establishment of a Japanese entity to head into the Japan market as well. This is fairly because they understand the needs of medical devices like what they're building inside the Japanese market as well, but also to utilize the knowledge and experience that Japanese researchers have to accelerate their R&D. As for Aerodyne, I'm pretty much sure a lot of people know them already. They are one of the world's largest leading drone service provider. They're developing services for agriculture as well, which enables data-driven precision agriculture to be done for farmers all over the world. But we also collaborated with Japanese corporates together to co-invest in them at the same timing. Kobashi Industries, this is one of our, Kobashi Holdings, sorry, this is one of our LPs in the fund, as well as ACSL, which is a drone company in Japan we're very close with. But being able to conduct co-investment schemes is a way for Japanese investors and corporates to come on board to also seek for synergies, not just in investment activities, but also throughout their business. So in order to create and accelerate these kind of collaborations with corporates in Japan and Southeast Asia startups, we conduct several supporting programs to the startups. And one I think iconic case is, especially when it comes to IP. IP strategy in ASEAN in general, it tends to be the second choice. It's not very much actively approached. For us, we've been able to partner up with different IP firms, well professional in both in Japan and also in Southeast Asia, to conduct not just a due diligence approach towards startups, but more of a way to secure the right IP for the startup itself, and also to seek for which ones needed to be kept trade secret. And with that strategy put in place, it allows Japanese corporates to understand the value of each of the startup, as well as allows the startups to protect their core when that kind of synergy happens. So these kind of IP strategy for us, I think is very important. And it's a way for corporates in Japan to look into the startups in Southeast Asia and support them the right way possible. Another aspect is about the IPO or the exiting market. I'm not sure how much you know here, but within the Southeast Asian markets or the listing markets in Asia in general, Tokyo Stock Exchange market, Hong Kong, and Singapore are well known and very liquid. But even within comparing the three, the Tokyo Stock Exchange market is very actively looked upon startups in Southeast Asia. This is because there's been cases that companies in Singapore are listing into TSC, and one iconic case was OmniPlus that happened in June just last 2 months ago. But with this first case in place, we can see that the Tokyo Stock Exchange market can also be a strong exiting point or a strong market for deep tech startups to gain its traction and also fundraise. And so that we also want to bring these teams within the Tokyo Stock Exchange market. And in order to do so, you need to put a lot of collaborations with corporates in Japan. And this is something that we want to bring upon as well. Last points I just wanted to clear off is also through the fund, we've been able to conduct a lot of collaborations with governmental institutes. I do understand there's several governmental institutes in today's webinar as well. But one was with Singapore, Seeds Capital, which is a VC arm in Singapore, governmental based. But just a couple of weeks ago, we were announced as one of the co-investment partners, especially in the deep tech field. And this was also the first and the only Japan-based VC to be appointed. The basic scheme is that when we invest into a startup in Singapore, the Seeds Capital has the authority or has the ability to co-invest roughly the same amount. And also it's an incentive for the VC when a certain exiting happens. But for us, it allows one obviously to approach and seek into the Singapore market much more strongly, but also it gives us higher chance to support and nurture the teams here. So I do believe it's a scheme that all other entities in ASEAN can also consider, and maybe in the future as well. And last but not least, with MTDC, Malaysian Technology Development Corporation, it's a governmental accelerator, investor, and a venture builder, but they also joined into the fund as an LP. Their mission is to grow the deep tech ecosystem within Malaysia. But because there's not much investors within Malaysia, they wanted to collaborate with us to have a fund that invests after the venture building from MTDC happens. And it was also their first LP investment inside a Japan-based VC. But we're very honored to be able to collaborate with players like Seeds Capital, MTDC, and we really do wish to bring it up to the next steps to other entities as well. So finishing off my slide or my presentation with this slide, I do understand there's quite a different types of people joining and participants joining today. Just three things. One, for corporates out there, both Japanese and globally, it would be great if we could discuss and see ways of collaboration in investing together to deep tech startups in ASEAN. There's still a huge gap in the investment environment. There's a lot of players wanting to be supported. And I guess, being able to do so is very important and very challenging, but a huge chance within the whole startup market. For the governmental institutes joining here, likewise explained with MTDC and Seeds Capital, it'll be great to have discussion opportunities with different entities as well. We do wish to expand our investments to Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, Thailand as well. So it would be great to have the opportunity to discuss there. And lastly, for accelerators and partner VCs, do come into the deep tech field together with us, because there's still a huge chance, and we really do wish to expand this ecosystem together with different partners. And so yeah, both Will and I are happy for any type of discussion. You can find us on this QR code, and hope to talk to you soon. But yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for showcasing your very interesting, innovative investment projects in real tech, and also perhaps your vision going forward, cross-sectoral collaboration. And also congratulations for being appointed as one of the co-investment partners in the Seas as the first Japan-based VC. Now, we have about 20 to 25 minutes for Q&A and discussion. And this session will be very interactive today. So with questions raised in advance and also questions coming through live on Zoom, if any. And we are very lucky to welcome back Mr. Mason Tan from Garden Impact Investments, who will be a discussant for this session today. And if you attended the first session of our seminar series back in May this year, you may remember his inspiring story about garden impact investing stories. And Mr. Mason Tan is a co-founder of Garden Impact Investment, and he has been an active practitioner in impact investment field for nearly 10 years. And with his practical insight, he will facilitate the Q&A and discussion. Now, please go ahead, Mason. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you once again. Thank you for the opportunity to come and be part of this exciting discussion panel. And thank you, Taiki-san and Wilson, for your very exciting journey. I'm so inspired, and I'm thinking about what can we do next. So maybe I can start, while we're waiting for some questions to come in, maybe I can kick off by a couple of questions that I'd like to ask. Maybe first of all, Wilson first. Wilson, congratulations on your listing of QD Laser. And I thought it was very inspiring that where people can see value of such investment, they can recognize that this is not a pure financial return project. It is something that help to address societal problems and issues. Maybe you can share with us, what kind of a positive social impact that this project has generated so far, and what other things, kind of impact measurement are important to you?
Thank you very much, Mason, for your question. Just waiting until the camera zooms in. All right. Yes, thank you very much. So, well, this is actually something that I forgot to mention, but we do invest into seed and early stage startup mainly, which means a lot of them don't have a product yet, or even in QD's Laser's case, their device was only approved by the FDA equivalent here in Japan in 2020. So they started selling their device around 1.5 years ago. The numbers that were made public are around, their sales is around at 700 devices so far sold. So you can at least say that they provided this device to 700 people who wouldn't be able to see without this device. Whether you think this is a small number or a high number, obviously depends. Their first quarter numbers doubled since last year. So we see a steady increase in obviously the devices sold. And we expect them to grow further on, obviously. So you would, in this case, you would see that it actually takes time, even if you're listed, whether you can have a direct impact at the stage of IPOing. From a fund perspective, it might be an exit. This is where the struggle comes in. We believe that even if we exit, for example, the company, so basically selling the stocks, they would have a huge impact going forward. So as an impact investor, we would see it as a success, even if it wouldn't have an impact during our shareholding. So we support and are active supporters of those startups who might have that struggle as well. As an impact investor, it's a struggle, to be honest. So we do look at and we expect the device to, as I briefly explained, to enable people to get better education, to get work, and to be able to have fun, move around. Those are kind of the measurements that we are looking forward to. We recently also invested into a startup that basically creates a Google map for low vision people or blind people. And we are looking at the theory of change, how they're achieving their impact, and through selling devices, what kind of change it will provide to those people. We will soon be publishing that report as well as one of our first impact assessment report. So please look forward to that as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Wilson. I think I like the way how you manage investors' expectations. I think this is a very important part because SDG investing or whatever impact investing is still in a very early stage compared to other traditional financing instruments. So and maybe I can ask you the next question, Wilson, is that you mentioned about this still being in a blue ocean space. How and some of the risks involved are very much what we call frontier risk. And how do you manage that? I think today's investment professionals are very data-based, evidence-based driven. So how do you manage this such risk?
Yeah, thank you very much. Not sure whether I should mention this, but we don't see ourselves as investors. We don't see ourselves as fund managers only. We are entrepreneurs ourselves. That's what we believe. Back in 2015, there were not many investors who were investing in deep tech, seed early stage deep tech investors. So that's why we entered that market. Today, there are not many deep tech VCs, especially in the seed and early stage, who do impact investing. And that's why we entered the space. So we actually like taking on challenges. But the basis is obviously we are very confident that we'll hit the financial target. Now, when it comes to social impact or environmental impact, the way we look at it is, as I mentioned, we look at first of all, we look at whether there is truly a challenge, whether there is a social or environmental issue that needs to be solved. So during our due diligence, we look quite heavily into that. For example, the case that I mentioned, the Google Map device, basically it's a device that you put on your shoes. It will vibrate in a certain way, telling you whether to go left, right, go straight. We, for example, interviewed people who would be using those. We would follow them through their lives, making sure that this actually helps them. Obviously, we also look at the technology, whether that's truly implementable, because even if you have the greatest technology, if you cannot bring it onto the market for various regulation reasons, for various production, manufacturing reason, it has zero impact. So we want to make sure that we can bring that to the market. So we look at those kind of risks that we reduce those risks of technology, and also making sure that there is a problem and the approach is right.
Yeah.
Obviously, we cannot cover 100%. There might be still risks on the way, but those are kind of the ways that we're trying to reduce risks and making sure that the startups truly have a social and environmental impact. But also, I think it's important to mention that it's impact investing and assessment. It's not only making sure that you make the right investment decisions. It's also about making sure that you help the startups to grow and basically manage your impact. And I think that's the other part of impact investing. It's very important that you use impact investment as a guidance for creating your company. So I think that's the other way how we trying to reduce risks and trying to make sure that the company will have an impact.
I fully agree with you. That's why I think you talked a bit earlier about the theory of change. It's the process of how you guide these people to develop not just once off, but more of a sustainable impact on the community. I shall ask my next question to Daiki-san. Daiki-san, you mentioned, I'm very excited about your collaboration with Singapore and Malaysia government in terms of doing this deep tech VC. Besides government assistance, how do you think the rest of the ASEAN countries' ecosystem can be improved? Or what are some of your wish lists that you hope to see that, maybe, more incentives, more grants to make this happen? A lot of time, actually, we know there is a lot of money floating around. The question is, there's not enough investors taking more risk to journey together. How can we change that?
It's a very, very good and hard question. But for example, right, looking at the Japanese, I'll be very specific with the deep tech ecosystem. But when looking in Japan, right, obviously Euglena's case of Euglena IPOing in 2012, changing its being listed in the first section of the Tokyo Stock Exchange market in 2014. That was a very iconic case, right?
Yes.
And throughout that, especially in Japan, and after them listing, they never changed. They never stopped on challenging flying an airplane with microalgae. And just 1 month ago, they were able to do so, and it gave the whole deep tech ecosystem a very, what do you call it? This image that when being successful financially, it also allows them to develop and build something much more bigger than they thought. So in that case, I guess for each entity in ASEAN, I think it's very important to, one, create that iconic case. For us, we wish to at least invest into one teams in each region from the first global fund, and we wish to make that iconic case together with different partners in each region, so that it allows the whole ecosystem to understand that deep tech impact investing is meaningful and it makes sense within the region. With that iconic case being in place, I think also looking back at the Japanese ecosystem, we also did a lot of co-investments and grant schemes with the Japanese government, like NEDO and METI. This gave us, the chance to take that risk in order to invest, because when we invest, a certain amount of grant also comes into the startup, which allows the startup to develop their technology faster and at a larger scale. So I guess that being able to take that risk is also with regards to the support of different governmental institutes. So Seeds Capital, that they were amazing on that end, and I really do wish to have that similar scheme with different entities as well, if it's possible.
Yes. Thank you. One more question for Daiki-san is, I know most people always think IPO is the only exit strategy, which is not true. Maybe you can share a bit about what are the exit strategies that you guys have been exploring, and including how traditional corporations can even be involved in exit strategy?
Mm-hmm. So, firstly, exit is a word for investors, but we always want to be, startup first, right? So I guess it's more of a way for startups to be able to commit their financial returns to their current investors.
Sure.
But like what you said, especially in ASEAN region, M&A is I think about 90% of the way for startups to exit. Fairly in conglomerates or big corporates, supporting them from a very early stage to finally at buyout at a certain timing is the mainstream. Also, within looking in Japan and our activities here, we also had a case last year for a gene analysis company to be merged and acquired by PHC, Panasonic Healthcare, which was also a great case for us to be able to see how technology implementation can speed up by collaborating with that corporate. So I guess it's always important for startups to think in a mind that it's not about making the best financial returns out there, but it's more about in order to accelerate technology implementation or in order to get your technology out to the world faster and stronger to different customers out there, what is the best case for yourself? And especially in the deep tech market, I do understand that M&A would be a very strong and iconic case that would happen, especially for us in the next couple of years. And we do wish to see that kind of momentum coming up, also with Japanese corporates being able to support or merge and acquire startups in Southeast Asia.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
maybe
no
I can.
Well,
maybe one was Wilson. One question is more tapping on Wilson's experience. I know you are considered as a pioneer in this space. How do you see today's circumstances situation compared when you first started, like maybe 5 years, 7 years ago? How much have you changed? I mean, and how the space have changed in terms of risk, in terms of the player, in terms of the ecosystem, and especially how this deep tech space can help the post-COVID-19 as well as climate change world. I think that would be a question that I also have for Daiki-san later as well. So over to you, Wilson.
Thank you. I think a lot has changed actually since we have started off. I mean, it's going towards the positive direction, I think, in our view. Whether it's a curse or blessing, we don't know. But I think COVID has also accelerated the process because investors have now realized that humanity is actually very vulnerable, and having a solution against it to tackle those pandemics is crucial for survival. And you would see a lot of investors actually invest in biotech, medicine, startup these days. So I think that's also boosting things, especially from a Japan perspective. The Japanese government has also announced going carbon neutral by 2050, finally. And I think that also boosts the market. So if you look at all the big corporates, maybe not the VCs, but the CVCs, they're now looking into climate change space quite a lot and looking for partners who are able to do that. And so I think the momentum is going in towards the right direction, but I think still it's more leaning towards the startups who are rather successful or having a product already. And there are not too many investors who can do very early investments. And I think that's what we are trying to bring to the market, where we're trying to add value. So I think, you know, we would welcome any partners and collaborators who would be, you know, basically going riding on the same boat and trying to, you know, solve this gap or fill this gap.
Thank you. How about you, Taiki-san?
Let me think. So I was gonna ask a question to your sense. I was thinking about that, but sorry. Same as what Will was saying, you know, we do see a lot of change, especially in Japan, the whole environment of investments happening a lot more into the deep tech field. I guess several reasons behind that is because one, they were able to, you know, look at us, look at our activities, look at other investors that were also in the pioneer of this field and see that there's significant traction or results. Also, by following on investing after us, it allows them to have that secureness that
Yes.
technology itself is okay. It's more about the business model, the team, and you know, the marketing strategy itself. And that side, I guess, it's something very common and easier to understand, right? So, you know, I guess this shift happened because good cases have been emerging. But for Southeast Asia specifically, I still don't see, you know, a big, what do you call it, momentum coming, especially in the deep tech field. And I really do wish to bring this upon because there's just a lot of entrepreneurs and researchers willing to be supported, willing to be understood, and willing to implement their technology out to society. So Japan side, that's all good. So I'll keep that to Will and he'll with the rest. But from my end, I guess my role is to bring it up to Southeast Asia as well. And I know I really do wish, Mason, if you could also come into this to the deep tech field together.
Yes.
To see what we can do too.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you both gentlemen for your really honest feedback. And, you know, I truly agree that, you know, while the market potential is definitely there, a lot of potential investors need a lot of hand-holding, a lot of guidance. And I think this is where I believe this is not a competition, but a collaboration that we can, you know, work together and make things happen faster and sooner than later. Thank you very much once again. And I
Go
shall
get that
pass
phone.
I shall pass the floor back to Aya-san. All right.
Do you have any closing remarks or? Sorry. Do we have any time more for that? Or?
So we have 3 more minutes, Mason, if you'd like, or we don't have any questions coming through Zoom. Otherwise, we can wrap up now.
I just wanted to, make just a comment on that. Since I think we've been talking a lot about high tech, right? And many startups out there in ASEAN or investors potentially looking into ASEAN might wonder, okay, this region might not have so many high tech startups, right? I think it's not about too much about a South or an ASEAN startup having high tech solution themselves, but you know, trying to solve the right problems, having their approach, and looking for deep tech, you know, solutions or technology in Japan or elsewhere is another approach to it, I think. So I just want to make sure that I don't discourage any investors or startups who think the region doesn't have enough high-tech startups. It's as you said, it's about collaboration. For example, Shiokumits, I mean, they're a high-tech startup, but they're still collaborating with a Japanese startup, and that boosts their business, right? So I think it's about creating those kind of collaborations, and that's, I think, what the ASEAN-Japan Center is there for anyway. So yeah, I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Well, I suppose now it's about time to wrap up our second webinar series today. Thank you very much for staying on till the end. And we hope that you gained some practical insight into this field and for your current and future strategies in your endeavors of achieving the SDGs. Now, before we close, we'd like to share with you 3 reminders. For those of you who wish to collaborate with Realtek Holdings, and if you'd like to speak to Realtek, please get in touch with Mr. Kumamoto and Mr. Fuji from the QR code. And now the presentation materials used today with that QR code will be uploaded on our website tomorrow, and the YouTube link will be made available within a week on that same webpage. And finally, please give us a few minutes to complete the brief survey, and the link will be sent to you shortly. Now, that's all for the webinar today. We look forward to seeing you in our the 3rd SDGs webinar. And thank you very much. And wherever you are, please stay safe and healthy. Thank you.